Sekeres and Price for Thursday, April 18th, 2024, coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the Iconics Wall Center, downtown Vancouver. Going to a game, an event in downtown, want to make it a staycation, call the wall, ask for the Sekeres and Price rate. Some blackout dates apply, 604-331-1000. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price. Grady Sass, hitting switches, conducting things alongside intern Sean Chessman. We got a big show coming up. And it's all brought to you by Applewood Auto Group.
Applewood Nissan in Surrey has the legendary Pathfinder. The 2024s are in. Lease one for yourself at 3.99% for 24 months. Finance it at 3.99% for up to 36 months. Get out and explore BC in your brand new Pathfinder. It's all good at Applewood Nissan in Surrey.
Before we get into the poll question, partner, we made it.
We endured
the Stanley Cup playoffs
time.
Are here again to start Sunday at Rogers Arena. And I say that because Blake and I started our show together in November of 2011. Day after the BC Lions won the Grey Cup, actually, their last Grey Cup. The Canucks, of course, had just a few months earlier lost Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. We did get the playoffs the next season.
Mm-hmm. Short-lived. Mm-hmm. Short-lived.
And the season thereafter. And then, of course, in 2015, and then the expanded bubble playoffs, but there were a lot of lean years. There was a lockout. Blake, you remember lockout shows? There was a pandemic. Remember pandemic shows? So it has been an awfully long road, and I know many of you Canucks fans cannot wait for Sunday, when the first playoff game in 9 years in this city goes off at Rogers Arena. And so that's what we're asking you on today's poll question. How do you see the series versus the Predators? Nashville in 4 or 5, Nashville in 6 or 7. You can vote Vancouver in 4 or 5, Vancouver or 6 in 6 or 7. Vote at Sekeres and Price on Twitter and YouTube. I will give you the lead here. Who do you like and in how many games?
Hey, intellectually, I know it's likely to be Canucks in 6 or 7. Like that's what my brain is telling me. I'm going to say they continue to surprise us, and I'll go with the better betting odds, if you will, and I'll say Canucks in 4 or 5.
Deep cuts and B-sides. Yeah. That's Blake Price, everybody.
I know it feels unlikely, but they've been surprising us every step of the way.
Yeah.
So
I like that rationale.
I'll be bold.
I like that rationale. And particularly if you're putting a nickel on the series. Yes.
Yeah.
Because most series end in 6 or 7 games. In fact, more of that later in this block. I'm going Vancouver in 7 because let's face it, nothing comes easy for this franchise, right? Also, the playoff inexperience, the goaltender who's on the comeback trail, and more on him in a moment. So, look, I think Vancouver is the best team here by a margin because really, and we've talked about it, Nashville has the great top line. They have a fantastic defenseman and a very good defense pair. And they have a goaltender who, when he's on the top of his game, is outstanding as well, although he has been really worked this season. So I think you got a beatable opponent here, but I also think that things are going to be difficult at different times in this series as the Canucks feel their way through the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Not exactly a playoff juggernaut either, right? In the Nashville Predators.
No.
So, you know, there's no experienced leader here, I don't think, really. I mean, there's guys that have been around, certainly.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about grizzled playoff veterans. Except for maybe Anthony Beauvillier.
And like, let's face it. More on him later in the show as well. And let's face it, the Canucks have been good, not great, since the All-Star break. The Predators have been mostly great since the All-Star break until the last 3 weeks or so when they've been mediocre to poor in certain stretches.
4-5-1.
Yeah. Haven't beaten a lot of playoff teams of late. Nashville has. It's a little bit like the Canucks until this past week where they beat Edmonton and Vegas, where they got the wins they needed to get against the bad teams, but really weren't doing anything much beyond that. So bring it on. Can't wait for the Stanley Cup playoffs. And the schedule that and this is not official yet. I've gotten so many messages. When's the official schedule going to be out? Well, look, it's either tonight or tomorrow morning, right? At this stage.
Yeah.
Can't go much further than that.
They don't at this stage like to release partial schedules, and they get all the info by the end of the night. So,
although I, like everybody, saw that email from the Canucks last night about the premium tickets or whatever they called them, and saw they listed dates of Sunday, Tuesday. And so we anticipate Sunday game 1. We anticipate that it will be the second game of an evening doubleheader with the Avalanche and Jets playing in advance of the Canucks and Predators. We anticipate Tuesday at Rogers Arena. And then a wrinkle in Nashville because they've got the arena booked Thursday for Tim McGraw. So we think game 3 is going to be Friday in Nashville. The Nashville ticket buying option does not list dates.
Which, if you plan on traveling, wow, it's perfect because you can leave
weekend, baby.
You miss 1.5 days of work, maybe, because you can leave Thursday evening, get in there for the Friday game, Sunday game, leave Monday morning. You could be at the office by 1 p.m. and you're back at it. Shout
out to listener D Marcine 67 on Twitter. Says, guys, any idea when they'll announce the official schedule? I have a chance to watch 3 and 4 in Nashville. Get after it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Predators have geo-blocked people.
You gotta go secondary.
You gotta go secondary market.
I had tickets.
They're only selling tickets from the club to their area, the Tennessee, Mississippi, Georgia.
I saw
so
StubHub
unless you
tickets.
have one of those.
I saw StubHub lower bowl tickets for $180. That's
US.
Nope, Canadian.
Canadian. Okay.
Yeah.
So with fees and everything, couple $100 and you're in the lower bowl per ducat. It's not bad.
Pretty reasonable. Yeah.
And of course, it only gets more expensive, as we know, as you go through
as the rounds go on.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And if the Canucks do win this series, there is a chance they go to Alberta, and no offense to Alberta, but it's not Nashville. It's not California. It's not Vegas. So in terms of like fun destinations on playoff sojourns, take advantage while you can.
You're not feeling Edmonton in early May on the banks of the North Saskatchewan?
I don't think the mosquitoes have hatched yet. There's the plus side.
Could face Vegas in round 2.
Could very well. And
weather in Vegas.
Can you imagine that back to back for rounds?
Vegas.
The poor Canucks fans, Nashville, Vegas. Like
they would
poor livers.
Honestly,
that's legitimately Nash Vegas.
Yes. Yeah, that would be something.
The Vancouver Canucks with a playoff slogan. They tweeted it. Was it this morning or last night?
Last night.
Last night.
Yeah.
Yes. The caption, "This is our moment, believe," and the slogan, "All together, all in." As Canucks slogans go, as recent Canucks slogans go, I like it. It's certainly better than unfinished business for a team that missed the playoffs.
Yes.
You remember that one?
Yes.
I mean, I'm forever partial to "We Are All Canucks." I think that is absolutely the home run 11 out of 10 slogan that they have delivered to us. But all together, all in, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm interested.
They didn't reinvent the wheel here.
No, but I'm interested to see what kind of rollout we have for the Stanley Cup playoffs. I know a lot of people are hoping they play U2, Streets Have No Name, to take the ice. Very much suspect the towel power will be back. I suspect you'll hear more from the Canucks later today, Friday. We're also getting a little short in the day for viewing parties. Are those going to happen?
Rob Williams is on it. So they're announcing something shortly. Aaliyah wants to know if she thinks the Preds are happy they don't have to face the Stars.
Probably. Dallas is really scary. And frankly, for a moment there, when it was 1-0 St. Louis after 2 last night, I thought, oh, man, they're going to get Vegas, aren't they?
Well, I think the Canucks
but
are
Dallas
happy.
Came back, and here you are. Dallas wins the West, Vancouver the 2 seed.
I think Canucks I would guess Canuck management, like the Canuck franchise and Canucks players are happy it's the Preds, and I think it's mutual. I think the Preds would much rather they face the Canucks versus Dallas. So there's mutual disrespect, if you will.
Yeah.
Which is good. It should make for a fun series.
I think the Dallas Stars are winning the Stanley Cup. I think that is the most complete team. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of everything.
I look at the top 9 forwards they can throw out, the 2 defense pairs, and then the other key here is 2 goaltenders. How many teams have required 2 goaltenders en route to Stanley Cup championships of late?
Well, Ottinger has found his form too.
Yeah, wow, that's it. Ottinger had a bad first out, but he has found his form. Wedgwood did excellent in when called upon this year.
Watching that third period, and then puck came back to Tanev at the point. I was like, Tanev, God,
right? No, I know. Yeah. Anyways, I think Dallas is the best team. Boy, Colorado Winnipeg's a delicious series as well here, especially with the way the Jets have played.
Oh, that is like PVR. If there's any conflicts, you PVR that game. Folks.
Honestly, like that is a conference final worthy matchup in round 1. And for everybody who wants to shit on this playoff format, and I understand it has not necessarily delivered those division rivalries that the league had hoped for when they fashioned it almost 10 years ago. The one thing it does deliver is heavyweight tilts in round 1. And Colorado Winnipeg is all of that.
It's really good. Just to take a glimpse into, and again, there's still a few things to be decided here,
including Vegas, LA, Edmonton.
But in the 1v8 format, the old format, it's Stars versus Kings, but it's Canucks versus Knights, it's Jets Preds, and it's McKinnon versus McDavid.
Oh, wow.
In the 4 or 5. So that would have been good too. That would have been really good too.
The East would be exactly the same in a 1 through 8, whereas the West, it's much different. And hey, have the debate. It's part of the fun.
That would have been tough. That would have been tough to see McKinnon versus McDavid in round 1. Like,
but again, that's a heavyweight in round 1.
Oh,
love it. Love this time of year.
Yeah.
Canucks and Winnipeg to conclude the regular season. Brock Boeser is not on the trip. In fact, Brock Boeser, Filip Hronek, JT Miller, and Ian Cole all going to be rested for this game. It's something you spoke about at length this week. What do you make of the decision here from Coach Tocchet?
Fabulous. And we thought maybe somebody wouldn't get on the flight, because if you're just 100% that person shouldn't play, then why put them on the flight? So it sounds like Boeser didn't make the flight, and the other guys are there for shits and giggles. And I think this is the right decision, particularly for guys like Cole and Miller, who just cannot help themselves. Sometimes they will get in front of pucks. And again, we also said this, and let's monitor this in this game. You know, the guys that are in the lineup, uses the Pattersons of the world. Let's see what the ice time is like. Let's make sure nobody goes above 20.
It brings us to our top story, which is final impressions for Quinn Hughes and the Norris Trophy in particular, and capping off a season that ranks amongst the best in Vancouver Canucks history. They win tonight. They tie the second best season. And our top story brought to you by Douglas. And really out of nowhere, let's remember where this team was last year, folks.
Who'd have thought?
Let's remember, we were all just thankful the season was coming to an end. Mercifully, we were putting the bullet in this final non-playoff season for the Canucks. It was dreadful.
You know what I don't miss? Going to that freaking draft lottery site.
Oh my God.
The wheel.
Just going to say that, Grady.
Oh my God.
I saw the draft lottery is going to be May 6th or May 7th, depending on when the first round. And I just breezed by it on my timeline and went, don't care. But let's remember where this team came from. First of all, have not made the postseason since 2020. And that was by gift.
Asterisk.
That was because there was an expanded postseason field with the pandemic. have not legitimately qualified for the Stanley Cup playoffs in 9 years.
And Talkit yesterday said that was not real playoff hockey.
And many have said the same thing. Craig Berube in St. Louis.
Yeah, in the early going, people didn't want to disrespect the Lightning by saying it wasn't.
Right.
But in the end, now
with the passage of time,
yeah,
and the fact that we've had some postseasons, real postseasons since,
and playing in the Roman Coliseum, playing in the Roman Coliseum matters. Like that is part of the shtick of the Stanley Cup playoffs, part of the mystique. The other thing that's on the line tonight, by the way, is 45 wins in regulation time. And for all of the talk of the second half and how they've fallen off and all this sort of thing, if they win tonight, they will be tops in the league with the Jets. They will have tied the Jets. And obviously by beating them means the Jets will stay at 45 themselves. If they can win 60 minutes, they will lead the league in wins playing the sport of hockey as it will be played in the playoffs. 5-on-5.
Yes.
Not in a contrived scenario in order to decide a winner. To me, that matters. To me, it's an indicator of how good you are and how good you protect leads and all that sort of stuff. 45 regulation wins. The juggernaut team you talked about, the Dallas Stars, I'm not saying they're not scary. They're at 40 regulation wins. They're done. 5 fewer wins, and that's a lot fewer wins. There's not many teams that are in the 40s for regulation wins, and for the Canucks to lead the league in that category, to me, that's an indicative stat there of how good you are. It's a real stat.
Absolutely. And this from a team that was hanging around the top of the league standings for most of the year. Right?
Yeah. It's hard to, the heavy is the crown, the head that wears the crown,
sure.
and they were wearing it for a long, long time.
Right.
And didn't succumb.
And so the one thing I just don't want to get lost on our top story here, because of course the playoffs come and there is only one story, is just the extraordinary turnaround here from Rick Tocchet and the Canucks. 6th place in the Pacific Division last year. 6th. They were 10 points shy of Calgary. They were 17 shy of Seattle. And they were 12 shy of making the playoffs. That is a huge gap to make up.
And Matt,
let alone to not just make that gap up, but be at the top of the standings and be home free and clear since what? December? January?
And back to the stat I just referenced, 24 regulation wins. They've almost doubled their regulation wins on this season. It's crazy.
Were 5th in the division the season before. 5th in the division the year before. That was a little better point-wise, was 92. But they were still 5 away from missing the playoffs. They were 7th in that god-awful North Division. You remember that god-awful North Division?
Not good.
They were worse than a sad sack Senators team that year. 56 game that year, 56 games, 50 points, 27 back of the Leafs in top spot, 9 back of the Habs in the final playoff position that year. So it has been 3 seasons where for the most part, they've been desperately out of it. Not to mention the years from 2016 to 2020, that when they were desperately out of it in most of those years too.
The captain on Twitter pointing out, crazy they could finish 3 points shy of the President's Trophy after missing Demko for 5 weeks.
That too. Great point, Captain.
And that highlights the benefit of having such a hot start, is you can afford these little bumps.
Like if ever there's an excuse, again, I push back a little bit on this second half fade. Yeah. Did we see something change? Yes. But let's not overstate this second half fade.
That's recency bias, right?
There was something missing, but we've seen the math.
Record very good. Very good. Wins came against lesser opponents, struggled somewhat against the better teams.
But if you ever want,
all that is fair.
If you're a coach in any sport that wants to tell its players, guys, the points at the first couple weeks of the season matter the same as the points, show this Canucks season.
Actually, no, they don't. You know why?
Why?
Because the Canucks would be really bad for 4 months and then win a bunch of games in the last 2 months. We've seen that storyline.
And make the playoffs
no,
and be good?
And miss the playoffs and decrease their lottery odds.
So you're saying they're worth more at the start?
Yes, they are. Of course.
Hey,
if you're behind the 8 ball in this league, what is it? U.S. Thanksgiving, 75%. If you're behind the 8 ball in this league, first 6 to 8 weeks, forget it. 3-point games.
But weren't
really hard to make
the Leafs with Phil Kessel like 11-3-1 out of the gate one year?
Yeah.
And then just
faded.
Oh my God. Bottom dropped out. So
I mean, you'll find a team or two that jumps out to a start and then the bottom falls out. Yes.
And they managed to load manage some of their top players. You saw Pettersson and Miller's ice time drop. You saw guys like Ian Cole coming out of the lineup and Noah Juleson coming. And that was smart coaching by this staff to keep these guys fresh and know that, hey, we're going to go a little easier on you now, but just know middle of April, you guys got to ramp it up again. And the last few games, I think they've and against Calgary, yes, but overall, we're starting to see that team come together and a good goaltender. Has there been a team in the NHL this year? I don't think there has been that has had such a strong turnaround compared to last year.
No, I believe it's going to be the best turnaround in the National Hockey League.
Point differential. It's got to be up there all time too.
But
no, believe it or not, I actually looked this up a couple of weeks back. There are some mind-boggling point turnarounds. I believe New Jersey or Colorado, or maybe both of them. I want to say there's a
Probably
47.
Colorado. Yeah,
I want to say there's a 47-point turnaround season to season. I think it was Colorado. Maybe you can look it up, Grady. But no, let's not diminish the Canucks turnaround here, because of a potential to be 111 points. In fact, did a welcome mat on this, which 28-point improvement. So that's nothing to sneeze at. That's fantastic.
Grim, I want to correct Grim Studio here, or address Grim Studio on YouTube, saying Ryan O'Reilly's not a playoff vet. Ryan O'Reilly's got a decent amount of playoff games, 75 for sure. You know that Ryan O'Reilly's been past the second round just the once when he won the cup. That's the only time he's been past the second round. And because the first decade of his career, he made the playoffs twice, and he was gone in the first round. So, and of course, my greater point though was this
you can cherry pick any player.
But my point was that this Predators team as a core group haven't exactly gone on some storybook runs lately and formed that chemistry. His first year for Ryan O'Reilly.
They made the cup final all those years ago against Pittsburgh. If I'm not mistaken, Juuse Saros got called on a couple of times in that final because of the struggles of Hronek, their star goaltender at the time.
O'Reilly 65.75.
But that was 2017.
Yeah. So is Roman Josi the only Predator who remains from that team?
Gosh,
who played as significant?
Colton Sissons.
Was
Sissons might have been
Pride in North Van.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Okay. All right. I don't know about you. I'm loving my new Douglas mattress.
I'm glad you do. It was named Canada's best mattress on Canadian Living. So why wouldn't you want that? Order today at douglas.ca/Canucks Army. And another why wouldn't you? Well, it comes with the free Comfort Sleep Bundle. That's 2 memory foam pillows with pillow protectors, a luxurious cotton sheet set, and a mattress protector free with any mattress order. That's all by ordering today at douglas.ca/Canucks Army.
Thatcher Demko says he needs a set of practice on Wednesday. He still has some things timing-wise that he wants to work on. Hopes to do so against the Winnipeg Jets on Thursday. Tocchet has told us he's going to start, but we'll see how the game goes, right?
Yeah. He was open to pulling him. He said that yesterday.
There is a world where Casey DeSmith may finish this game or play in this game.
Yeah, because if he's had a decent workload through 2 periods of play and he's feeling healthy, why do you bother putting him in the line of fire for that third period? Because the point of playing today is getting him a few more reps and also getting him into the groove of the game routine. Goaltenders are very much routine oriented, and getting set, getting your mind ready to start a game, that's all part of their daytime routine. So now Demko's done that a couple of times before the playoffs begin, but it doesn't mean he has to play the 60 minutes. And it also gives a little bit of action for DeSmith so that it's not by the next time you foresee something, if he gets in, a ding or just needs a playoff or a performance pull for Demko in games 2 or 3, it's not 2 weeks since DeSmith has seen action. So it probably doesn't hurt to get DeSmith in between the pipes again as well.
Let me just get to this to clean it on up. The New Jersey Devils last year with a 47-point improvement. The
47
Avalanche in 2018 and the Penguins in 2007 made those sorts of.
What are the Canucks at?
With a win tonight, I believe it's 28.
Oh, that seems modest by comparison.
No, I know. Well, it's a matter of it was Tony.
They were 82, right?
Tony Gallagher said to me last month. He goes, "Matt, like if they keep winning here, like this is going to be amongst the biggest turnarounds." This was before this is before they had some speed wobbles. This could be amongst the biggest year-to-year improvements in NHL history. So that's what got me.
Well, people forget that they were not vomitous last year.
Well, that's it. Yeah,
you have to go back.
A couple of the
years.
ties that bind there are teams that were like right at the bottom and leapfrogged into the upper middle.
People remember the vomitous seasons, but last year was not fully vomitous. Maybe you swallowed it back down. It was there, but just swallowed it. The other ones were messy all over the floor. Mops come out.
What I can't believe, though, is a 6th place in the division, 83-point season. And we're like, yeah, that one wasn't all that bad in comparison.
Well, the year before, too, because of the Bruce effect, it was 92 points.
Yeah, the Bruce effect got them to close to respectability.
Yeah.
Vasily Podkolzin has a new deal. 2 years, $1 million per. He was a restricted free agent with no arb rights, so it is a modest increase on what he was making. And the Canucks get some of their offseason business done with the Russian winger who has still not launched.
This could be a really good value deal for the Canucks, because if you're seeing progress, if you're a believer in the traction of Vasily Podkolzin's development, then it's not crazy to think that next year is a bit of a coming out party, not as a first line player. I just mean as a 15 to 20 goal guy again. And if that's the case, well, then the year after that is going to feel like you're stealing money a little bit. So I think it's a great deal. I think it's a great idea to get him locked up, get a little bit of term there in case the development does keep going. So it was to me, that's a no-brainer deal and eminently variable, obviously, if you send him down to the minors.
It's the Hoglander template, right? They saw last year, he sent down to the AHL, gets a 2-year contract. His was just over $1 million. So, I think he's carved out what his identity is in a bottom 6 role, but you're still hoping he can get up to that draft pedigree and start.
Well, he's not going to get to the draft pedigree, but you're still hoping that he can be a counting stats guy. Like, it's one thing to do some great little things, but he needs to be a double-digit goal scorer.
But I think
at very minimum,
he's established his floor now that he can make an impact in the bottom 6 with his physicality
and maybe the security too. Maybe just knowing I've got a deal, and with this deal, you'd think he's probably starting with the Canucks next year. And but it's not so rich, obviously, that he should have his feet up, and he doesn't think he's struck it rich. On the relative scale, that is a paltry salary. So he should be still eminently motivated, and yet also have the security of exhaling and saying, "Okay, I'm here now. I can just concentrate on being better here." So it's a good move.
Need those cheap bottom 6 options.
Gary Bettman, the league's commissioner, against the trend in North American sports, says they're happy with the playoffs. They're not expanding the playoff field. Quote, "We're not giving any thought to expanding the playoffs. Our game has never been stronger." Okay, that was me. What we have is working very well. When you look at how our playoffs play out, the number of 6 and 7 game series, the competitiveness of it, nothing in anybody else's playoffs rivals that. Blake, over the past decade, over 2/3 of 150 NHL playoff series, 67.3% have gone to a 6th or 7th game. It's 54% in the NBA that get to a 6th or 7th game. I'm not the commissioner's biggest fan, but I do think this is the right call. I know baseball's expanded their playoff field. football has expanded the playoff field. And of course, the NBA is in year 3 of this play-in tournament, which, and I know you've had a Cinderella story there with the Miami Heat, but I am of the belief that 10th place teams probably don't belong in a postseason, like the way the NBA has done it here. And the Stanley Cup playoffs are long enough and arduous enough. And really, I'm not necessarily sure how many more fan bases have been brought in at large and had their attention held by single game play-in games or single game or best of 3 wild card series. I'm not sure those efforts have had the effect. The NFL as well. I sit there and I watch the NFL last weekend and see who gets the last playoff spot. And I go, I'm not sure they're got a chance to win 3 or 4 games. So I'm with the commissioner. Keep the playoffs, 16 teams needing 16 wins for the Stanley Cup.
I'll bridge the gap. You go to 9 teams. 7-8 play a 1-game winner take all. It only adds 1 game to the schedule. And, I don't think there's much delineation between an 8th and a 9th team in this league right now. The Blues were far and away better than the 10th place team, for instance. And in the East, we know there was a bunch of teams vying for the 8th spot. So I don't think you're getting any demonstrably worse teams into that fold. And it adds that winner take all game that you talked about. The NBA play-in series is kind of convoluted and you have to understand what it is. If you expanded it by 2 teams, 1 in each conference, and the other thing it does, of course, Matt, is it makes you want to avoid that 1 game. So all of a sudden the teams are vying to get out of the basement. They don't want to have to play that one annoying game.
And all of that, fine, Blake, but this season is bloody long enough.
One night.
The NBA starts weeks after the NHL and finishes before the NHL. No, I am A-okay with where they have it. I think expanding it is the wrong call here. The other thing is, I just don't find the play-ins compelling because I just don't believe in the quality of the teams.
Yeah.
Do you?
Not in the NBA, certainly. I mean, there's
you got Lakers in play-in game.
Yeah.
You had Miami make a run last year.
I think the Lakers have been in the play in the last couple of years.
And yet still, I don't believe, and I would not believe in St. Louis or Philadelphia or Detroit or any of the teams that you would let in this year.
But in a parallel world, those teams are, the Wings had the same amount of points as the Capitals, for heaven's sakes, right? So,
I don't believe in the Capitals either.
No, neither do I.
Could they win a series? Like the 7th and 8th seeds, I shouldn't say the 7th and 8th seeds because
it's not like
Tampa is quote unquote the 7th seed, the top wild card, but the Islanders and Capitals. Could I see them winning a series? Yeah, sure. It's the NHL. You see that. Goaltending happens, and if you get great goaltending, you can beat a better team.
In this case, for the Capitals, I don't.
Do I think Washington, the Islanders can win 3 or 4 playoff series? No.
But the Capitals aren't beating the Rangers. The Islanders could beat the Hurricanes because they got it, slightly more favorable.
The final NHL game in Phoenix, Arizona on Wednesday, and the Coyotes win it in their farewell. Owner Alex Muralello not in attendance.
Unbelievable.
Bush League.
Watching everything around this game was extraordinary. Did you see Shane Doan getting his retired number banner from a fan who rescued it from the Ila Arena?
So did they
Glendale?
Did they redesign it for the new place or something? Like they just didn't. I guess they just didn't have space to hang it because it's not their building. Is that it? Like what the hell?
So there are conflicting reports here. One radio host in Phoenix said the Coyotes. There were conflicting reports about whether or not the Coyotes were contacted to go and retrieve the banner. One report said they weren't. One report said they were. Bottom line, Nobody went over to get it. This is with your legacy player, the one player that you have.
The face
a
of the
great
franchise.
player,
Yeah.
a great spokesperson, ambassador, lives in the community, all of that. So a fan rescued it from a dumpster and brought it to Mullet Arena last night and presented it to former Kamloops Blazer Shane Doan, who was all smiles. But of course, if you know Shane Doan, he is often all smiles. Nice moment. Lawson Krause, great East guy. Wanted him so bad in the trade. Do you see him? Stayed on the ice 1 hour after the game.
Wow, really?
Signing things for fans were throwing over the glass for him to sign, taking photographs, made sure to bring a stick out to the team's parking lot attendant, knowing it would be the last time they saw him.
They were hugging all the trainers and, the
team photo on the ice.
Yeah, because a bunch of the staff's not going to be making the trip.
No, and everybody knows that.
Character guy right there.
One of the clips, by the way, that went viral, you might have gotten a little confused. Atu Ratu's brother made his NHL debut in that game. Imagine that.
He will have a story forever.
Yeah.
And his name is Blake?
Aku, not
Aku.
Atu. Older brother by a year. Yeah.
And he'll be able to have kids. We beat Connor McDavid in my first NHL game on the night they shut hockey down.
Yeah, there's a few asterisks to that game.
In fact, there is a board of governors call as we speak.
Yeah.
And the
formalizing
league,
it.
And the league asked only one governor beyond for each team. Basically, this is just the owners.
Right.
Gary and Bill are walking them through. I would imagine there's a lawyer there as well.
No alternate governors.
No, exactly. Sorry, Michael Doyle, you don't get to participate on this one. It's got to be Francesco. Let's hope he's available. Unlike the expansion coach Seattle. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He missed it. The Canucks missed the meeting. Anyways, this from Michaela Perkins of Phoenix Sports. I've tried to keep my thoughts on the Coyotes social media to myself, but this is just atrocious. Unacceptable social media management. Deleted. It was a deleted post from the Coyotes official account that said, "We'll see you all on June 27th. That's the date of the land auction in Phoenix that they're hoping to win, in which case they are hoping to build an arena." Post has since been deleted.
Mm-hmm.
People believe it was the owner's son who has made posts from the official account in recent weeks and months.
He's made a mockery of it. A lot of deleted posts.
My goodness. Only the best in the NHL, huh? We should just nickname Alex Morello Boots. Can we call him Boots Morello from here on in? It's the second coming.
Mm-hmm.
Good riddance.
And here's
honestly.
the thing. The NHL is better off with this team in Salt Lake City. I think it could be a hit in Salt Lake City.
He seems like a very involved owner. He's excited to have
a visionary owner.
Yeah.
Too. Like a smart guy. He's already talking about building grassroots hockey in Salt Lake City and in Utah.
To be fair, and some people might, diminish this because there's been success stories where there isn't snow, but it is a winter climate. It is a winter city.
It's a winter sport.
Like it's an Olympic city. Like they do have some connection to hockey there.
I was talking with a very smart sports business person a number of years ago as the NHL was struggling in Nashville, as the NHL was struggling in Phoenix, Florida, and guys from Virginia originally. And he said to me, "Matt, part of the problem in some of those markets is that everybody south of the Mason-Dixon line, every boy, knows the feeling of the ball in the glove. So when they watch baseball and they see somebody catch a fly ball or a ground ball to shortstop, throw over to first, they all know that sensation."
Mm-hmm. It's relatable.
It's relatable. Mm-hmm. Very few people south of the Mason-Dixon line in the U.S. know the feeling of two hands on a hockey stick and shooting a puck.
And can appreciate, holy crap, that's really hard to do what he just did.
Right. Anyways, we'll see how it does in Salt Lake City. Did you see former Canucks captain Bo Horvat last night and the class he demonstrated at the end of that Islanders Philadelphia Flyers game? And I do, in fact, wonder whether it was inspired by the class Jerome McGinley show Trevor Linden for his final game.
Right.
Jeff Carter, final game of the National Hockey League, Stanley Cup champion, had a sublime career. And when he finished last night as a member of the Philadelphia Flyers and, hugged some teammates, Bo Horvat led a lineup of New York Islanders players to shake Carter's hand and wish him well. We always knew he was a good egg and a classy guy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was magnificent stuff from Bo Horvat. And speaking of magnificent, Blake, we had 2 players hit 100 assists this year, something that has only been done by 5 people in NHL history. Connor McDavid, now joined by Nikita Kucherov in the 100 assist club. The only 3 other guys on the list are for me,
the Mount Rushmore incumbents.
The 3 Mount Rushmore guys, without question, Gretzky, Lemieux, and Orr.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you.
That's crazy company. We might need a second Mount Rushmore, is what I'm telling you. Because in the future,
hey, good news, both Dakotas, you're getting them.
Yeah, exactly. You guys got a canyon too? Honestly, because at the end of all of this, how are you discerning between Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, and then we'll see which defenseman ultimately needed at the end.
This is what I was going to throw in your kitchen here. Where's your Hart Trophy vote going, if you have one?
I am going to go with Nathan McKinnon.
Okay. Are you swayed by the 100 assists for Kucherov or McDavid at all?
No, and part of that is probably voter fatigue for McDavid, who would be second on my ballot.
Which, I mean, it shouldn't be a thing. We have railed against.
No, it's just it's subconscious. But I just I think McKinnon's team just was a little bit more steady all season long, probably because he was so steady all season long. The fact that McDavid had such a slow start, those games count. We just talked about it. The games at the beginning count too, and McDavid was way further down the scoring leaders than we ever expected he could be on November the 15th. We didn't think he could be that far down.
Right. So you're McKinnon, McDavid,
Kucherov,
Hughes, Matthews or Hellebuck?
Matthews, Hellebuck.
Okay. All right. I gotta finish mine off today. Lastly, Blake, from Pierre LeBrun. The NHL is indeed planning an NHL awards show. There had been uncertainty of that. Nothing finalized quite yet, as the league is still talking to different venues, but current plan is to have the show June 27th in Vegas on the eve of the draft. So if Rick Tocchet wins Jack Adams, as we expect, if Quinn Hughes wins the Norris, as we suspect, they will have a ceremony, they will have a show, they will deliver a speech, there will be musical accompaniment.
I'll make sure to PVR
the photo beside the trophy. Programming note for everybody who is not yet aware, we have postponed the Bro Do Your Playoffs event that was scheduled for Saturday at the Hollywood Theater. We are going to recast that event at a later date, and the event this evening at Greta Bars,
which, by the way, we are redeemed for, because that would have been the last practice before the series begins.
The event that was planned for Greta Bar this evening on the 18th is getting moved to next week around a road playoff game. So we will have details on that. Let's get to today's menu. It's brought to you by Ben Moss Jewelers. Ben Moss Jewelers, proudly Canadian owned, operated, history dating back more than 100 years, 5 locations in BC, including Willowbrook and Langley, Coquitlam Center. Committed to customer satisfaction. Check out the large selection of Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, mined diamonds available with a payment plan to suit your needs. For more information, check out benmoss.com. Ben Moss, because love is timeless. Patrick Johnson is going to join us. He's got details. He has sussed out this schedule for the Canucks and Nashville Predators. We'll also ask him who he thinks has a chance to step up and be a playoff hero. And J-Pat on everything Predators Canucks. And, of course, the last bit of business against the Winnipeg Jets. PJ is next. Northlands Golf Course. Download the free app and book tee times with a touch of your thumb. And while you're on course, open the app for hole-by-hole GPS and track your score. 6 to 90-day reservations. Jump the queue. Lock in your date for $10 per player booking fee. Limited daily availability. Check it all out. golfnorthlands.com.
In a season like this, you never want to miss a single second of what's happening on the ice, and you want to be around your fellow fans, right? Well, Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova, the perfect spot to do so. Hey, if you've got tickets, a great place to pre and post. They've got drink specials every single day. And if you don't have tickets, well, stick around and soak up the atmosphere with all your fellow fans, play all the great video games and air hockey, great air hockey setup as well at Greta Bar YVR. We'll see you there, 50 West Cordova.
Our next guest, a presentation of the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club, counting down to opening day on May 10th. Club reminds organizers of groups of 12 or more, those primetime tee times are filling up fast in 2024. So get on in, reserve that time, and just for holding that tee time, you, the organizer, gets to play for free. Whistler Golf Club takes care of the rest. Tell us about your group at whistlergolf.com/groups. And of course, follow their spring preparation. The Bears are back at Whistler Golf on social.
I've organized for us, by the way, so I'm playing free.
Oh, we're going 12 this year.
Yeah.
It's
a big group.
I didn't know we had 12 friends.
But it's free for me.
Here's one of them, Patrick Johnson of the Province and Post Media, Canucks beat writer. Alas, not a golfer, though.
No, sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I just never
Wanna
took.
come
I
ride
mean,
in the
I
cart?
enjoy. I'll have some. It never took.
Want to come ride in the cart?
It never
Drink
took.
some beers, take in the fantastic scenery there at the Whistler Golf Club.
No,
Yeah,
he doesn't sound
but
interested.
Why don't I just go? Sure. I'm not gonna. I'm
Stay
not
in
gonna
the
reject
patio.
an invitation. I'm not gonna
Yes.
reject an invitation. It's a kind invitation to spend time with Matthew.
How about a trip
See
to
the,
Nashville for a Nashville patio? Would you do that?
Patty on the patio.
Yeah.
in
I've
Nashville.
only ever covered one game in Nashville. It was the end of the 18-19 season. And as is standard, and this is not complaining, this is reality. It takes you all day to get there because you have to go through somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I arrived at 8:00 at night or something. Get to my hotel. I literally don't know. Anyway, I know vaguely things. I get to my room. I literally get a text from Corey Hirsch, who was the radio commentator at the time, saying, "Come to Tootsie's." I'd
That's how it works.
misplanned my day too, so I hadn't eaten since who knows what time. So I ended up there, and let's say there were sort of several members of the Canucks coaching staff there, and they were buying people Bud Lights, and that's just how it went. And then and then I got home and back to the hotel and had the 1 a.m. $30 room service cheeseburger. That was my dinner. Yeah, so that's why I can
yummy.
it was great.
Did you hear Wagon Wheel by chance?
No, what's that?
It's a country song that's been covered by about 12
Do you
different
live in
people.
Nashville, bro?
Yeah.
No, I don't know any. I don't know.
Wagon Wheel, Darius Rucker?
The answer is yes, he heard it.
Like you
Yes.
can walk down the strip there, the Broadway strip, and hear like one verse coming from one bar,
Sure,
the next verse
okay.
coming from the next.
If you played the song, I'd know it. I don't know names.
By the way, it's not
Don't know
Darius
names of country
Rucker's song. He just is the latest
Oh,
guy to
okay.
gain fame from it.
Blake, give us a few bars. Remind us.
I'm not very versed on that song.
So rock me, mama, like a
Oh, that
wagon
one.
wheel.
That's called
Rock-
Wagon Wheel. Okay.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
There
Yeah,
you go.
that was on a lot.
Hey,
Well, hey, no, Grady. One thing we try to discourage is Grady singing on the show.
Is
That wasn't bad.
people-
That wasn't bad.
Is.
That wasn't bad.
We have
Grady
regard for people's eardrums, Grady, but
Mm.
thanks for your continuous Jumpinski this week.
Grady, hey, you guys may have heard Grady's had a social media presence in the past. Maybe you guys should send him to Nashville just to do that.
In the past.
Oh.
I love the in the past thing. Like he's
Oh.
a has been. I love it. I love it.
I was chugging hot sauce out Maple Leaf Square, eating
Yeah,
spicy
salsa.
peppers every time.
Hot sauce man.
My goodness.
You seem to have done a lot of digging
Oh, my
on the
God.
schedule here. So Sunday start at Rogers Arena.
Yes.
I do understand it is going to be a 7 p.m.
Yes.
start. The evening
Yes.
doubleheader. I believe Winnipeg is going to play before the Canucks, Winnipeg and Colorado. And then Tuesday at
Yes.
Rogers Arena.
Yeah.
Alas, there's a concert Thursday in
McGraw.
Bridgestone. Tim McGraw ain't moving for shit.
Yeah, so I think you're
So
getting
we're-
Friday, Sunday in Nashville for 3 and 4.
Okay.
And then the one thing we always knew, no matter who the Canucks were playing, was that game 5 would be April 30th, because April 29th is Justin Timberlake opening his world tour. And then May 1st
And he ain't
is
moving either.
21 Savage, but I mean, April 30th had to be able to. If 30th will be game 5, and then I've just had a few people pass along some nuggets, because you're sitting here going, what the hell are they going to do for 6 and 7? Because as people may know, Pearl Jam is here also opening their world tour for 2 nights, May 4th and 6th. And the idea that you could simply push one of those around, I mean, I suppose, but the point is you took the money, so you're not going to pay the money back to move the shows. So you're going, okay, does that mean they're going to somehow do like back-to-back on 2 and 3? And I kind of tweeted about this last night. Of course, people went bananas, missing the nuance, being like, I don't know what they're going to do. But what I've gathered, it sounds like what they're going to do is at least game 7. I think game 6 will be like the 3rd, because you'll get 2 days off, cross-country, whatever. Could be the 2nd. But game 7 is going to be on the 5th. Between the Pearl Jam shows.
They're going to tear down the stage.
Tear down the stage, load in the trucks, drive the trucks out, park them somewhere, I guess, play the hockey game, bring it all back in and do the concert again, which, I mean, there'll be substantial cost there, so it'll be interesting to see who's paying for that.
So Pearl Jam roadies are really hoping the Canucks wrap this up in 6
that
games.
too. And then the other fun wrinkle for the morning, I mean, I think people, of course, pointed out the sun run's happening on Sunday morning here, is that May 5th is the marathon. So the morning will have interesting variables, whether that's for team access to the building. I mean, it was, like loading in, morning skate, like, because their boulevard's closed from 6:30 to 9:30 as well. I understand it. So
holy hell. Yeah. We forgot about all this stuff, right? Scheduling in the spring.
Well, but
this
honestly,
is as elaborate a thing as I've ever heard.
No, but would anybody in this room, if put in Canuck Sports Entertainment shoes, not have booked these shows for this?
No,
week?
I don't think so. I get it.
Like, we all would have done it, right? Because number one, you've gone all these years without the playoffs, which have hurt revenue. Number two, there's no guarantee you're going to make the playoffs. In fact, at the beginning of the year, you were less than a 50-50 bet, right? Most people had you out. The bookies had you out.
Well, I almost wonder too, like, is the day off in between, was that for this very reason, or is that because Eddie wanted to rest the vocals to start the?
Well, I think
Eddie wanted an off night in Vancouver.
Yeah,
one of his favorite.
I think for the most part, Pearl Jam don't play back to back anymore.
Oh, really? Wow. Interesting.
Like they do have later on this tour, they play back to back in LA. They play back to back in Berlin. They play back to back in New York. But for the most part, if they have 2 shows in a city, they're taking a day off, and it's got to be 100% about resting the vocal cords. Yeah. So the only thing that I would have said, like if I had been, I would have looked at it and said, listen, like you're going to have to think carefully about all the what ifs. I mean, you couldn't have had them go on the 5th and the 7th. They don't play again until the 10th in Portland. So, but
So let me get this straight, Johnson. You know the nuances of Pearl Jam's tour schedule, but you don't know Wagon Wheel.
I mean, I didn't know the name. I know the song. I never knew that song was called Wagon Wheel. I'm impressed that you know it's called Wagon Wheel.
That's priorities.
How does one not know Wagon Wheel?
It's not
because at what point do you usually hear that song?
It is the country anthem.
It's the night.
I think country music fans roll their eyes at Wagon. They roll their eyes at Wagon Wheel.
I know the song.
Are you kidding me? As soon as Wagon Wheel comes on, the Woo girls are in full force rushing to the dance floor.
Blake is the mayor of Wrongville.
Yes, absolutely, Grady.
I'm moving into Wrongville with Blake here. Give me a break, man.
What do you make of their decision to rest Boeser, Miller, Hronek, Cole against Winnipeg?
I'm not surprised. The Boeser one is not a big surprise, given the reported banged up, whatever it means. He's still been scoring, so I've been trying. And he was honestly, we had Brock yesterday, amazing mood. Like he was in absolutely great mood. Jeff asked him about the Sedin's retirement game, and I wish you guys could have seen him light up. Like I don't think the video captures quite how like Brock stood up taller. Like the memory sparked him. So, he is clearly feeling very good. So whatever it is he's dealing with, I mean, obviously he needs it off. Miller's had a long season. Cole, I'm not surprised. I guess I'm a bit surprised they did not find a way to get Friedman in there as well, or get 2 defensemen in as well.
Miller would have blocked a shot, so it's you got to guard against that. Cole and Miller would have blocked shots tonight.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? Like exactly, like it's things like that. So, the moment Dallas got to overtime, we all knew it was going to be not. I mean, Tocchet was trying to play coy, but you knew that he had in the back of his head if there's something to play for.
Is Hughes playing only to defend the scoring title for defensemen, or is it just they feel like it's lower risk?
I think it's lower risk. I think it's just. I mean, it's a little bit. I asked the other day. I guess it was last week. Because Ted, the bus driver, who drives the bus for the daycare and after school care, asked me, "Hey, I noticed at the game the other night that they're only using the big guys at the end of the game. That Hughes wasn't out there. Did you notice that?" And I thought it was interesting. That was a good question. So I was talking about it, and he basically said, "Listen, no, it was exactly what Blake's talking about. He likes having the big guys. Guys are going to block shots." He said Quinn Hughes is a very good defender, but he defends in a different way. And I think that's exactly goes back what you're asking here, Blake. Is that Quinn Hughes, we know the way he plays, but he takes the puck away from you and he doesn't let you have it. So there's less. I think there is less risk there.
Your take on the matchup, though, Canucks versus Preds. What's your analysis? How much of a favorite should the Canucks be, given both of these teams are kind of hitting above their weight class?
Yeah, I mean, I think people have missed 2 things. You kind of go on the rap. Juuse Saros has been a great goalie. He has not been a terribly great goalie this year. He's been pretty average. And the Predators have not been very good defensively. It was funny. I'm blanking now on who it was that had the piece of analysis the other day. But they were talking. It was probably last week. It was sort of the Predators kind of run out of the season. They've stumbled to the end of the season, and part of the story was that they were not defending the slot very well. And do you remember who? I mean, certainly early in the season, but I think even lately, who is pretty good at generating shots from the slot? It's the Vancouver Canucks. So you balance those 2 things against each other, and this. I don't think it's going to be a short series. A lot of people, it's going to be a short series. I'm not. It's the playoffs. Playoffs are, it's so rare you see a short series. And if it is, it's because it's a team like Colorado playing Nashville. Maybe the Canucks will do that. They'll put it away. I don't think it'll be short, but I think in general, it's going to be, it'll be obvious on the aggregate when you add up all the goals for and against, it'll be obvious who the better team was. And I'm pretty confident it's going to be the Canucks.
Is scoring?
So give me the how many games
played?
I mean 6, right? Like 6. 5 just does to me. Just feels. I just don't feel it's there. I mean, the Canucks obviously swept them this year. I think it'll be 6.
Do the Canucks score a lot of goals in the playoffs and in this particular matchup? Because Nashville just goes. There's a lot of goals generally wherever Nashville goes.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it is the playoffs. That's kind of, we look at how the Canucks have been playing lately, a little more risk averse. If the game opens up, if they go up 2-0, then I could see the snowball. But if it's 1-1, 2-1, 3-2, that sort of stumbles along, I don't think we're going to see many blowouts. But I do expect the Canucks will win a number of games 4-2 or something like that.
What are the minutes of the big? What are the minutes of the big defenseman? Is Tyler Myers above 20 minutes a night? Is Nikita Zadorov going to be heavily used, or is Rick Tocchet going to be so scared of poor decisions of Nikita Zadorov? Because I can see it both ways in both cases.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the way that they built this defense core and the way they've been deploying them, to me, Tocchet's been thinking about how he wants to run these things for quite a while, right? Like. Quinn Hughes has been 24 minutes. Filip Hronek was in that range, and his ice time's fallen away. Hronek, I'm kind of curious about. I mean, I nodded at this in the story the other day. I mean, he's had I don't know if Jeff brought this up, but he's had a heavily taped right elbow for quite a while. So it's not a coincidence, I think, that we haven't. I mean, we've seen him ready to shoot, and of course, he had the breakaway or the penalty shot the other day.
He's passed up a lot, though. You're right.
But he's passing, I mean, that's not a coincidence. Anyway, but he's, they're still playing a lot. Like Like Myers, one of the keys to Myers' success this season is that he has played less than he ever has, at least in Vancouver. He hasn't played this little in quite a long time. That it's a very smart deployment of him, and alongside of him has been Zadorov. So I don't imagine there'll be. I mean, obviously situational stuff. Spoke about this a little bit yesterday, that he is excited about this. The situational coaching, everything matters. The way you dial in. Like at the end of the day, they want to play Quinn Hughes as much as they can, and every time you put a guy like Myers or Zadorov on the ice, you're taking ice time away from Quinn Hughes,
who I think will be upwards of 25 minutes.
Yeah, that could be the low water mark.
Yeah.
Like, is there any argument against playing Quinn Hughes more? Do you know what I mean? Like,
No.
He's going to play more. It's not going to be playing less, and that's going to come at the expense of a guy like Zadorov.
No, especially since. I mean, let's face it, you're hoping to go far, but I don't think anybody's expecting they're going to lift a cup this year. So, ride your horses here.
Yeah.
Don't worry about tomorrow. Today is the only thing that
if any of these games get to like a 3-goal lead in the third period, though, you staple his ass and give him a rest.
Give me a guy you think can be playoff hero here. A guy you think is poised to up his game for the Stanley Cup playoffs and make a mark on this series.
Well, is it easy to say? Too easy to say Connor Garland?
No.
I mean, in many ways, it was nice that Dakota Joshua got his back-to-back unsung hero, but to me, how was it not Connor Garland? Like the way the guy has done what has been needed night after night after night, and the way he plays and the way he understands how to, in fact, use his leverage being low to the ice to take advantage of other teams' defenders. It's been such a fantastic story this year. So Connor Garland, I think, is going to be a huge story in this series, partly because you've got the Miller line, which has been playing well. I mean, that Suter Miller Boeser line at times a couple months ago were one of the best two-way lines in hockey. Like, they were so dominant in terms of shots and possession. But and then Pettersson is obviously with Höglander and I guess Mikheyev or whoever is going to draw attention. Those lines are going to draw attention. There's a big role to be played for Connor Garland and sort of that soft minutes on the third line. So he's the guy.
I think that's a great answer. I could absolutely see that.
It's funny you asked that question. I got a text from Tomlinson yesterday, saying he was looking forward to our Chris Kontos pick for the playoffs. Does Garland count as a Chris Kontos? Is he too offensive?
God. I think you guys need to update your reference. Is what you need to do.
There was another name he threw in there. John Juuse. Yeah, that was the other one.
Juuse and Kontos. Yeah. Boy, give me 23 John Juuses. They win the cup every year. The Calder Cup.
Yeah, Dave, come on. Stop telling on yourself. We know who you played with.
Yeah. I'm going to say Dakota Joshua.
That's a great
pick. The size helps in this kind of a game for sure.
I like how he gets inside. I like the hands.
The thing about him, he's become so he's robust. His game is so robust, but it's so smooth. Like the way he just goes and does it. Do you know what I mean?
That's a great
shout. He gets it done.
Patrick.
He uses his strength.
Like he doesn't look big guy awkward very often.
No, exactly.
Even in tight quarters when he's got to manipulate the hands, which is really difficult when you're, that high.
And decent shot the other night. That was a Juuse Saros goal with a good shot.
Honestly, the way he's come back from injury, he did not miss a beat. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah. And you know what? The great pairing with Garland. I go back to what he told me before Christmas, that this is the most fun he's ever had playing hockey is when he gets to play with Connor Garland.
Yeah. Nice of the Canucks to give Thatcher Demko a nice long runway, 40-shot runway to welcome back into the National Hockey League action. There's the possibility he doesn't finish the game tonight. Do you have any problem with that? I personally do not.
I think you get him what he needs, and if you want to make sure he gets the reps and he's ready to go.
If he gets 15 or 20 shots in the first two periods, take him out, right?
Yeah. I don't think that happens. I don't think that's certainly not what Tocchet's looking for. I mean, he still wants his team to play the system and play smart, and the Jets are resting their guys. I think this is going to be like a 1-1 game. The only reason it won't be a tie is because the NHL won't let them have a tie. it'll probably go to a shootout. It'll be one of those games. It's just going to be. I'm not expecting a thrill ride tonight. That's for sure.
Oh, that Stars Blues game. I watched the end of that last night.
Exactly.
And that actually had some gravitas to it because the Stars were trying to win the conference. That was dreadful to watch. So
yeah.
Okay, buddy. Well, the Stanley Cup playoffs are here. We know the opponent, and we're pretty sure on the schedule as well. Thank you for your edification. Are you going to Nashville?
No.
Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Could have been a chance to brush up on your country in Western.
Yeah, I could have made you all kinds of videos, Matt. That's the real lie.
Join us in studio here. We'll even play wagon wheel. It'll be just like you're there.
There we go.
Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now. Hey, you. No, not you. You. Are you an owner operator? You have a fleet of trucks or cars? Well, CalPro Plus might be the dedicated tire program just for you.
Free program includes exclusive deals and savings, price match guarantee, flexible financing, and preferred pricing on everything you drive.
Also, you get a dedicated member support line. That means that you can get questions answered. Also, they'll source and recommend the right tire for you, your application, and your budget.
Cal Tire's network of 260 plus stores are here to help so you can focus on the road ahead. Sign up for free at calproplus.com.
Rinkwide's Jeff Patterson joins us after the Vancouver Canucks find out their first round playoff opponent. It's the Nashville Predators. Jeff, first blush thoughts.
It's a long way to go for both teams, obviously, and travel is a factor. If the Canucks have designs on going deep into the playoffs, there's a potential that they could go through Nashville. At some point, could have to find their way to Dallas, the Florida Panthers. If it was a Stanley Cup playoff or a Stanley Cup final, they don't have to worry about those other teams. They have to worry about the Predators. And I just think of a team that's been red hot down the stretch here. Had that 18-game run where they picked up points, 16 of the victories. And so got to be careful what you wish for. I know that there were a lot of fans that thought this was the better matchup for the Vancouver Canucks. And I get that, just knowing that the Vegas Golden Knights are the defending champs and everybody feels like they're going to ramp things up in the 1-3-1 of the Los Angeles Kings. So it's the Predators, and man, they've got some top end talent. And if the Canucks can hold that in check, then you'd like to think that on balance, the Canucks are a deeper hockey club. But one thing to say it, it's another thing to get out there and perform.
You say they're red hot down the stretch, and they've been red hot in the second half. Form hasn't been as great recently for Nashville. In fact, their last win against the playoff team was against Vegas on March 26th. How much do you think form matters? And that goes for the Vancouver Canucks too, who finished against Winnipeg this evening.
Yeah, well, when I say red hot down the stretch, look, we all know the season that Quinn Hughes has had as the top defenseman in the National Hockey League. Roman Josi has 11 more points than Quinn Hughes since Christmas. So just kind of chew on that for a sec to give you a sense of where Roman Josi's been playing. Filip Forsberg, third most goals in the National Hockey League since the All-Star break, behind Austin Matthews, who's pretty good at putting pucks in the net, and Kirill Kaprizov of the Minnesota Wild. So Filip Forsberg, a 48-goal season. Roman Josi, third in NHL scoring among defensemen. And that line that he plays on, Ryan O'Reilly's been exactly what they hoped he would be when they went out and signed him. And I wondered if he still had some mileage left in him, but clearly he does. And that line with Gus Nyquist. So, that line has absolutely driven the Nashville Predators. And when I say below those guys, if you can keep them in check, their second line center is Colton Sissons, who's had a very nice National Hockey League career. And we like our North Vancouver guys, Blake. Shout out to Colton Sissons. But the Canucks 1-2 punch down the middle is JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. You'd like to think advantage Vancouver Canucks there, but that's where I say it's one thing to say that. It's another to get out there and actually make it happen. Predators are the only Western Conference team with more hits on the season than the Vancouver Canucks, so we might be in for a physical battle. Jeremy Lauzon led all players in the NHL in hits this season, and in fact, the Preds had 3 guys in the top 15. And I know that hits can be a bit of a nebulous concept in terms of the buildings that they're in and all those types of things. Bottom line is the Nashville Predators see themselves as a big, strong, physical team, and we'll see how the Vancouver Canucks handle that challenge. And I guess, too, when I look at this matchup, guys, Juuse Saros, he can be a game breaker. He has not had his best season. And for all the angst in this marketplace about the workload for Thatcher Demko, like, we're going to find out if workload for a starting goaltender is an issue here. Nobody made more starts, appeared in more games, faced more shots, or made more saves this season than Juuse Saros of the Nashville Predators, and yet his save percentage at .906 is the worst of his time in the National Hockey League. So, again, he can be a difference maker. I don't think he's been as good as he has been in years gone by. The numbers would back that up, and maybe some of that is the team in front of him was playing so well and so locked in over the final, whatever it was, 35 or 40 games. So, yeah, like, this is going to be a challenge, without a doubt. There are some issues that the Vancouver Canucks have to face, but they knew that whoever they drew in the first round this year in the West, they were going to get a quality opponent.
I'm going to be interested to see what the X's and O's are of this series because, and I think Rick Tocchet is going to try to keep his team playing the structure that he has in the second half of the season. But ultimately, if the Nashville Predators are okay trading chances, and by all accounts they are, I mean, they create a ton of their own, but ergo they are susceptible to give them up as well. I mean, we've seen the Canucks, I think, can play that game for the most part. I mean, they did that versus Calgary the other night, and they did just fine because they've got the better goaltender right now, the more informed goaltender in Thatcher Demko. What do you think they get sucked into that? Because we know Rick Tocchet is going to be preaching structure, defense, all that sort of stuff, but might they get sucked into trading chances with the Preds?
I'd be surprised if it was wide open and track meet style hockey. Coaches will always tell you that they want to play it close to the vest and lock it down. Again, I just think with this Canucks team, we have seen if they can establish their game, get a lead, then they're so able to dictate the way that they want to play. And I think that's going to be a key for the Canucks. But look, the Predators are going to want the first goal just as much. So first goal's been key to the Vancouver Canucks, but are they going to open the scoring in every game in the series? Probably not. And so at that point, maybe it does force them to change a little bit. But I mean, you've got two guys in Josi and Hughes who absolutely can tilt the ice in their favor. When they're on the ice together, what does that look like? There's only one puck out there, and they both want it on their stick. So, that's kind of the game within the game. Who can really take over and control hockey games more? And they're both so capable of that. But when I look at the Vancouver Canucks, and again, on paper, they appear to be just a slightly deeper hockey club. But we know that a lot of that secondary scoring had success in the early half of the season, not so much in the second half. But when you look at the Predators, do you fear Kiefer Sherwood and Cole Smith and, Tommy Novak and guys like that? Probably not, but they're legitimate National Hockey Leaguers, and they've all been a part of what the Predators have been able to accomplish this season. And those guys don't have a lot of NHL experience either. So, I don't want to just to disregard those types of players. But again, I think if the Canucks can get the matchups they're looking for, take advantage of home ice, do what they can to limit the opportunities, because Forsberg was fifth in the NHL in shots this year. Like, he's going to get his looks. That's just what he does. Mm-hmm. He scored 48 times. But if you can limit those guys, then you're forcing the Nashville Predators secondary scorers to rise up and maybe have to level up. And ultimately, we'll see if they're able to do that.
Jeff, Canucks were 3-0 against them this year. Of course, all of those games happened early in the season. The last one came in December. Does head-to-head matter here?
I don't think so. I mean, look, the Canucks certainly have that in their back pocket, and the Predators haven't shown that they can beat the Canucks. But you're right. 2 of the first 9 games, I believe, were against the Nashville Predators. Elias Pettersson had a hat trick on Halloween here in Vancouver, the only game played at Rogers Arena. So you go back to late October for the one and only visit by the Preds. The Canucks finished up that 5-game road trip right out of the gate. One of their impressive wins, and I think that was one of those sort of hallmark nights that maybe gave us a sense that things were going to be different. At the end of a trip that started in Edmonton, took them as far south as Tampa and Florida, they had enough left in their tank to walk into Nashville, dictate the way that game was played, and they looked really good doing it that night. So, that was a good win for them. And then the win just before Christmas. So, yeah, I mean, look, if you're looking for slight edges, psychological warfare, whatever, if you're the Canucks, you're probably thinking, hey, yeah, this is great. Like, we went 3-0. If you're the Predators, you can say it doesn't matter, but ultimately they're going to have to get out there and show it. Now, 2 wins at Bridgestone, that might have some value for the Vancouver Canucks as they head in there for games 3 and 4, whenever they are. The other thing to keep in mind, though, guys, the Predators were a really good road team this year. I know they lost here in Vancouver in their one visit, but 24 wins on the season as the Roadsters. So they're not afraid to play away from home, and they're going to have to start. And they know the math is what it is. They have to win at least once at Rogers Arena if they're going to defeat the Vancouver Canucks.
Does the Sunday start say anything to you about rest for either team? It's kind of a nice amount of rest for the Nashville Predators, especially considering they have to travel. And I would guess they travel on Friday, as soon as they can. For the Canucks, I mean, it could be better. Monday would probably have been the perfect one, but what do you think of a Sunday start?
Yeah, I think it's all right. I was worried when there was the reports that they had shifted the entire start date of the playoffs to the Saturday. And I thought, like, what's the reward there if you're going to win the conference or even win your division, have to fly back from Winnipeg and turn around and get right back at it? So I kind of thought, a little unjust if that was the case. But I think by Sunday, they'll take Friday off after flying home from Winnipeg, get in a good solid practice. Coaches can start their preparation if they haven't already, now that they know they're locked in against the Predators. And for the Preds, probably a little bit of, I don't know if angst is the word, but just itching to get going. I mean, they finished the other night against Pittsburgh. And so from a coaching perspective, I don't think, rest is great to a point, but I also think these guys are hockey players, creatures of habit, and they're going to want to get amped up and get going. So, I'm not sure that there's an edge or an advantage either way. I'm curious to see ultimately, the Canucks leaving Brock Boeser at home for the trip to Winnipeg. I kind of was hoping that Quinn Hughes was going to be the guy that got left behind. Whatever the case, how much are guys going to play? We saw the Winnipeg Jets essentially moving the Manitoba Moose in for the night. And you can do that. I mean, that's the luxury, obviously, of having your farm team right there in the same city for a night like this one. So, I don't expect that we're going to see big minutes from anybody wearing Canuck colors, and that's the prudent play here. And I kind of laughed as Rick talked about getting Thatcher Demko a second straight start after coming off injury. And he was asked, though, if the game goes sideways and nobody's playing defense, and he said, if that's the case, he ain't going to be in there for long. So I think they're mindful of that there's no real benefit to Thatcher Demko, who's trying to find his rhythm and his routine again and look great the other night against Calgary. If this just becomes a glorified shinny with very little defense, like an NBA All-Star game, that's not going to help Thatcher Demko in terms of his timing and his patterns and all of that kind of stuff. So Demko will get some looks. How many? I guess we'll see how the game plays out.
Jeff, our old friend Anthony Beauvillier features with the Nashville Predators. If you didn't follow his progress
with that playoff record of his, yes.
I was just going to say, he's 29 points in 49 postseason games, and Patrick Galvin mentioned that a couple of times upon his acquisition from the Islanders about how good he played against their Pittsburgh teams in the playoffs. I imagine we're going to have a pretty motivated Predators winger here. What do you make of the ex-Canuck Beauvillier and his potential to make a mark on this series?
Yeah, I guess I would have liked to have seen him look a little more motivated while he was still a member of the Vancouver Canucks. Look, nice guy. I enjoyed dealing with him, but, he just brought nothing earlier this season. And what did he score the 10th goal in the 10-0 win in 10-1 win in San Jose? I think that was like the height of his offensive contributions to the Vancouver Canucks. He was all right after the trade. This is a contract year for him, and so we'll see what his future holds, obviously. But two teams removed now from the Vancouver Canucks after going to Chicago. So motivated, perhaps. We'll see what that looks like. This isn't the guy that plays with a ton of edge. I don't think the Canucks have to game plan for Anthony Beauvillier. I'd be a little more concerned about older friend Luke Schenn, who, when I talked about them being a big, strong, physical team, he's one of 4 Predators with over 200 hits on the season. So Beauvillier's kind of slotted into a third line on that team. And, I put some stock in playoff experience, especially because the Canucks have so little of it. And, maybe there are some nerves in the early going, and something like that, shouldn't phase a player like Beauvillier that's been around the block a handful of times now. But again, I'll be surprised when we break down this first round when it's over, if we're talking an awful lot about Anthony Beauvillier and the impact that he has on this series.
All right. Poll question time.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you like, and in how many games?
Yeah, I've said all along that given the distance this Vancouver Canucks team has traveled, and I undersold them. Nothing alone. I know that in the market, but I wasn't even sure that they were going to be a playoff team, and here they are winning the division. So absolute credit to them and the job that the players have done, and the coaching staff. And I think as you travel that 81 or 82 game journey when they finish up in Winnipeg, it's fair that expectations change and the star power and the way guys have leveled up. And if they don't get through a first round, all of the regular season success really means very little. So there's some pressure on the Canucks to win a round. And saying that, I expect them to win a round here. I think they're the better team. I think that they've got an edge in goal. I want to believe that they've got more star power that will show up and perform relative to the Nashville Predators. And so I think difference makers, are the guys that you're going to look to swing a series in your favor. And then we talked a little bit about depth as well. So I like the Vancouver Canucks in a lot of ways here, but I just think in this day and age, and especially this year in the Western Conference, these are all really good teams. Obviously, the Predators got to 99 points, and that's a seventh seed. And I would expect that the Canucks are probably going to have to win one in Bridgestone. I would be surprised if the Preds didn't find a way to win on the road here. I think back to 2011 though, and part of the Canucks story there was they ran out of gas, obviously, against Boston, and they had to make that trip back to Chicago when they should have taken care of the Blackhawks in 5, and they should have taken care of the Predators in 5, and had to go back to Nashville for a 6th game and got it done there. So, I look at 6. I know it's tough to finish series on the road, but as I sit here right now, I'm going to say Canucks in 6.
No Ryan Kessler for the Canucks this time around. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Hey, if Kessler was playing in this series, Canucks in 3. That's how good he was in Nashville.
To be fair, saying that they still had to go 6 against the Predators.
No, it's true. They blew that game. Game 5. You're right.
To be fair, the Predators didn't think they'd be where they are this year too. Like as surprising as the Canucks are this season, Blake, I don't think anybody had the Preds pegged in for 99 points.
Blake, even at the deadline, there were some in moves and some out moves.
Yeah,
they brought in Zucker, they brought in Beauvillier, they moved out Trennan. Yeah, I mean, and the stories out of Nashville leading up to the deadline was that
maybe they should sell.
Barry Trotz and the new management group there basically had a longer term vision than the immediacy of the deadline and their playoff chances. This year,
guys, I think there was some legitimacy to Juuse Saros, at least teams phoning.
Yes, for sure,
right,
for sure,
right.
And here's the thing: Brunette is probably going to be runner up to Tocchet for the Jack Adams.
That's right.
So we've got probably the 2 best coaching jobs in the National Hockey League that were done here. And of course, a lot of the Predators' work came in the second half after Trotz dropped the hammer and said, not professional enough. You guys don't get to go to the Sphere and Las Vegas, which of course the Predators have in common with the Patterson family from their failed Vegas.
No, they got there. They got there eventually.
Patterson's got there. Shannon Patterson was not going to be denied. So, in that regard, you are talking about 2 teams that are in some cases happy to be here, in some cases surprised.
The big difference, goals against.
The
goal differential, that much better for the Canucks. We'll see if that plays a role here. Yeah.
Well, and also, guys, Preds penalty killing and the Canucks penalty killing isn't a whole lot better, but we know the struggles of the Canucks power play. Had they faced Los Angeles, the Kings have one of the top 2 penalty kills in the NHL. Predators are 22nd, and that's been a bit of an issue for them all season long. And we'll see if the Canucks can get the power play going. Maybe that's an opportunity to exploit a weakness in that Predators lineup.
Oh, must drive Barry crazy that they're bad on the penalty kill. Marvelous stuff, Jeff. Thank you for this. We'll be listening and watching Rinkwide tonight, live moments after the final horn in Winnipeg. And of course, you'll be covering this Nashville series throughout. Thank you for this.
All right, guys, bring it on. Playoff time.
Game on.
No, Boeser, Miller, Hronek, or Cole for the Canucks tonight.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.